Good evening and good morning, ladies and gentlemen. The word on the street is some of you would like something a little more intellectual, a little meatier. So here we got it. We're going to compare a Makita grease gun to the Milwaukee. We are not going to be looking at any Lincolns or DeWalt's. This is just the Milwaukee versus the Makita. I'll tell you why I use both all the time. We'll start here. Milwaukee. You can meter your dose. You can get 5 squirts, 6 squirts, 7 squirts, 1 through 10. And I think it goes 15, 20. It's hard to read it. Very worn. 15, 20. Yeah, 25, and then it goes right to 50. You can do speed 1 and 2 here. It's just zoom, zoom versus zoo, zoo, that kind of thing. Oh, you make funny sound effects too. You just do it. You do it. It's got a light on it. Yeah, like that. And it's smaller and lighter than the Makita. Battery for battery. It's smaller and it's lighter. The other thing that it's got going for it is it's got the 2 holsters here and here. When you go to use it, you'll see why that's important. It's just much easier to get your stuff where you want it to be, to get your nozzle and your coupler and your hose out of your way. The Makita, we'll get to the Makita. The Makita only has 1. We'll come back to that. So this is what here again, what they look like side by side. But no matter how you do the hose, no matter how you wrap the hose, the Milwaukee is definitely lighter and smaller. If you use it a lot, you'll immediately see the difference. So you got the speed difference here, you got the metering thing here, and you got the extra holster here. If you're going to take this off here at the base, that's 11/16, 11/16 here, 11/16 here, 9/16 here. Okay, those are the tools. This is a 17 millimeter. That's your purge valve. There's a little ball and spring in there. It's a valve. So again, 11/16 here, 11/16 here, 9/16 here, and while we're on topic, also 9/16 on here. So you got 11/16 and 9/16. That's 11 and 9. Over here, same. 11 and 9. 11/16 here, 17 millimeter. Okay, why am I bringing that up? Well, we'll get back to that. It's important because I'll tell you why here in a moment. This Makita here, the Milwaukee is very useful if you're doing a lot of known territory and you're doing a lot of electric motors where you're trying to precisely measure your dose. If you put too much grease in an electric motor, bad things happen, and I'll let you look that up on your own if you don't already have personal experience with it, and many of you do. I have to use a Milwaukee for that because I'm all about delivering the amount of grams to each. That's how they measure it, in grams. Deliver the correct amount of grams to each electric motor. And then you have a lock and unlock here. I think that's common on the Makita also. Use new grease in the Milwaukee or you will jam it up, and that is why I pointed out all of the tool sizes, because if you have to take this all apart and take that apart and take all that apart, it's because you ran dirty grease in there. If you got stuff in the back corner of the shop and the tube is compromised, or you can see down in the cap either side, it's all dented up and it's leaking on itself, and you got spiders living in there, maybe some sawdust or whatever, don't use it in the Milwaukee. You'll regret it. It'll jam up your hose. It'll jam up the fixings inside. You'll have to take it apart with the acetone, the transmission fluid, the Croil, a brake cleaner, mineral spirits, whatever you got to do, you're going to have to take it apart and clean it. All right, now moving on to the Makita. Now, the Makita, this tip coupler is from the Milwaukee. Why did I do that? Well, because I use the coupler here because it grabs onto, this is an aftermarket lock and lube, okay? It grabs onto the, when you pull this handle here, it's hard to see, and that's not really the subject of the video. You pull the handle here, and these little fingers come out and allow you, you can't see it there because there's grease all over it, and that's not really the point of this video, but it allows you, if you need 3 points of contact, you're in a perilous area and you need as many limbs as possible to hold on to whatever it is you got, you want that end of that to come out and grab the end of the Zerk and hold it like that, and that allows you to do that. It's a little more for safety. It's bigger than the stock one, the stock coupler, which is here, but I put the Milwaukee stock coupler on the Makita. Why? Because this is smaller. It's smaller, meaning it has a smaller outside diameter than the Makita. So in other words, this coupler, which is off of Milwaukee, has a smaller outside diameter than the coupler which is on the Makita stock. So I took the Makita off. I use it for something else, and that's not going to get into that here, but I do use it for something else. This does screw, this Milwaukee coupler, which is what I call this end piece here, does screw directly onto the Makita. The Milwaukee stock coupler will screw directly onto the Makita. There are a few, maybe 3, 4 in this entire property that I do use this for in areas I cannot get the Makita coupler on. That's important. So that's why that's another reason I have both of these. Yes, you could change the coupler out, but I carry both for other reasons, which I'll describe here. The downside of this is you only got one holster here, right here where my thumb is. Doesn't give you as much flexibility. Doesn't give you as much flexibility. It doesn't. Again, this one has 2. And your purge valve here is a little different. It's this kind here. It just screws here, gets your air bubbles out, helps you clean it. I've never had this off yet, and I'll tell you why. One of the other downsides of this is, you see this here? I have to, when I go to change the tube out, when I got to pull this canister off, I pull the plunger back, unscrew the canister, pull the canister off, and change the tube of grease out. When you go to reinsert it, if I don't do this, it's really hard to thread this canister back into the machine. It's hard to screw this canister here into the threads that are way up here, okay? If you don't push that in like that. That's kind of weird, but it's not too cumbersome. Now, you cannot meter the dose on this bad boy. Whatever you can sort of, but you cannot precisely measure the dose like you can on the Milwaukee. So why use it if the holster's not as good, okay? If the holster's not as good, you only got one speed, and you can't meter the dose and it's heavier, why use it? I'll tell you why. That thing is a weapon. They're both rated at, I think, 10 or 11,000 PSI, but if I can't get grease in on this one, I sometimes change the battery to a bigger battery. If that doesn't fail, I use the Makita. And there are times when I cannot get grease in with the Milwaukee that I can get grease in with this thing. That thing is a straight up weapon. That you should have to have a permit for that. I think they're both 10 or 11,000 PSI, but this one feels much more stout. So depending on what you're using it for, if you're using it for rollers where it's steel over steel traveling on steel, it'll just purge itself out the back. This is the one to go with. If you're going to use it on journal bearings, this is the one to go with. In other words, journal bearings are 2-piece bearings and that are kind of coated with brass or some softer metal on the inside. They don't turn as nearly as fast or nearly as often as a regular bearing. This is the one to use. You don't have to worry about just let it run. But the main thing I like this for is U-joints. If you're trying to get, anybody knows, if you've ever tried to grease U-joints, if you've got one Zerk, you might, even if you got a Zerk on both sides of the spider, you might get 2 or 3 points penetration, or 2 or 3 point weep, maybe 2, 3 if you're lucky. This thing, you get a better chance of getting all 4. Okay, you get a better chance of getting all 4 because it'll just flood it quickly. It'll flood the whole place. It'll flood the whole inside of the spider before it'll weep out the ends. And that's the whole point of this. You might waste a little bit more grease, but you got a better chance of getting 4-point weep with the Makita. And that's why I use it. It's just an outlaw. It's just a rogue weapon, and it will spray grease if you don't care about how much comes out. The other thing that this does is I found some old lithium grease or some junky grease, stuff that's tubes are split open and there's contaminants of all sorts in there. I've never jammed up a Makita. It's just a straight up savage. It'll blow if you're cheap and you don't want to buy new grease and you got a bunch of old grease laying around, still on the tubes, sort of. They're misshapen, they're bent, they're twisted, they're split. The end caps are coming off, they're dented. You got a way better chance of being able to apply that grease with the Makita because it's just more raw. Don't do it with that. You will take that thing apart and you will contemplate suicide every time you do it because you'll clean it and it'll work and it's not clean, and then you'll take it apart, you clean it and it works for half a tube, and then you take it apart again, and so on. If you're using new grease, and by grease I mean like maybe 2 years old or less, you're okay with this one, as long as they're in sealed tubes and there's no contaminants. This thing, the grease is much less important. You don't have to worry too much if it's clean. You just have to worry about if you can get it inside here. If you can get it in there, it probably will not clog. I've never clogged one up. I've never clogged it in the chassis. I've never clogged it by the purge valve. I've never plugged up the Makita at all. So this is my very long review. I'm not doing the DeWalt's or the Lincolns. There's a lot of other machines out there, but these two I take with me all the time because there's a large variety of things that you're going to service, and sooner or later. You can be safe if you want to, but sooner or later you're going to have a collision with precision, and this is it. This is your collision right here. You're going to have to think about which weapon you're using. You might as well bring your chargers. You might as well bring multiple batteries, and you might as well bring multiple guns, because when you really get into the meat and potatoes of tribology, which is bearings, friction, and grease, you're going to have to seriously think about which applicators you're going to use, and these are 2 good ones. And I think that covers it. I welcome your comments and questions in the comment section, and I'll try to answer them. If they're complex, I'll just shoot another video and explain more as much as I know about that.